Okay, beautiful.
Recording in progress. So uh, now we're live
Okay,
out of the
awesome.
green room. So here we
Yes.
are. What do we potentially want to share with everybody else?
Well, I think it's just very interesting because I feel like Thoth has kind of been like right here, a little bit like right here, right? And when I didn't even know, like at the last time you and I kind of connected, I remember you had gone into Telos and we talked about the Mitchell Hedges skull. So that's
Yes.
been like probably two
Yes, that
years
was our
ago.
where our paths kind of crossed with the
Yes,
skull. And first
yes,
of all, let's just stop there for a moment because Telos was a magnificent thing. And people certainly want to understand how that affected me. But that wasn't the end of my journey. I
right.
thought, you just had to stop and take that. And how in the world then do you find yourself in front of the Mitchell Hedges skull? And over a 4-day period, you know how special that is to do it once, Robin. Three
Yes,
times. Three
yes.
times I got to do that. Now you stop and begin to ask yourself, how come me? Why? We don't really get the answers to all that until a few more months down the road when you just
Right.
kind of put it in the back of your mind. I don't know what it meant. And then all of a sudden now you're being interfaced with light beings in physical form.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just
Um,
great when you find another touchstone that might not have had your experiences, but they've had their own unique ones and they weren't supposed to have mine. The
right.
more this goes on, I realize that as much as I would love to take people into Telos the same way I went there, I have to say it's highly unlikely that that's the way you'll get there. I'm not saying you won't, but that was part of my journey. And all
Right.
those things had to line up on that day and those circumstances. And yeah, we can't repeat that.
Right.
But I know that it's going to be there for others. So your
Right.
turn.
Well, it's really interesting because I was just there this summer and I actually did a mini retreat. But before the retreat, last minute, it was like, no, you need to come and spend like 7 days here before your retreat. So I was like, oh, okay. So that ended up happening. Well, I feel like I did go into Telos, but the way that I went was sitting at the portal, where the portal is red fur, sitting there on the grass, the only person there. And I felt literally like I got sucked down through the dirt and went inside that way. So, really incredible. So, something really profound changed for me this summer. That was not my first time there. I actually lived there for a couple of months in 2019. And, but this time was different. This time just felt something profound happened, and I don't have words for it. And it was building up through this travel that I'd been doing leading up to getting there, of course. Um, and it also had something to do. I lived in Crestone, Colorado from September, October, and November in 2021, which honestly, like, shook me to my core.
I'm curious
It,
about your experience because Crestone has come across my path within the last few weeks. I really wasn't familiar with it, but now I understand it's got the same kind of magnetic draw that Shasta has. And now I understand over the last few days why.
okay, so
But I
I don't
want
know
to
if you're
hear about you.
okay. Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Maya Nartumid, but she's been channeling Thoth, right? Okay. So anyway, Maya and I know each other, and I ended up in Crestone to visit her for just like an overnight trip, just to say hi to her and visit her because we
Let me
had so
just stop
many.
for just a moment because I want to set a benchmark here. This is the second time within a few days that Maya's name has been mentioned,
Okay.
unsolicited. And we'll circle around when you're done to why that's significant.
Okay. So anyhow, she's been channeling Thoth for like, 60, 70 years, however long. So anyway, we've had lots of interaction together and we've had lots of lifetimes and connections. So I don't know if Thoth has confirmed this or not, but she says that his two retreats are Lake Titicaca and Crestone.
Well, those were well known ones. He has chosen a spot in Shasta that now, when he comes back, he goes wherever he wishes. But yes, he's been known to be in those places, but he's set up residence, not full time, understand me, but there's a throne room he has beneath Shasta. And we know
Okay.
where the door is. And when you go to this space, you go, I can see that damn thing opening. You'll understand that when you get there, because it's where my guides have led me to take others. Here
Okay.
is the spot. When you feel that the consciousness is rising and you just sense that inside of yourself, there are some areas that Maya had documented called golden
Hmm.
Taya allotments. If you're
Hmm.
familiar with what they
Yes.
are, this is one of those zones. So we're drawn
Ooh.
to these places because we know that when ascension happens, these are the zones that were set apart for us. That I had a different view of how I saw New Earth spawning. And I saw
Uh,
like third dimension Earth being left behind in a membrane and fourth above that. And we just kind of moved. That was kind of right, but it wasn't. After I read something that Maya had written that
yeah.
came my way 3 days ago, that
Wow.
was buried in her archives. Here is exactly the point by point process by which it's going to
Yes.
take place. Here's the
Yes.
window of time it's going to take place. And here's why these zones have been designated and cleared. We're
Yes.
all going to be drawn to them. They're in different places
Yes.
on the planet, but this is the purpose that they serve. Wow.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, and I was going to say she has incredible ascension dynamics that she has channeled. So just really beautiful. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so anyway, I ended up in Crestone by what I feel was Thoth's calling or doing. And it was a very I had a lot of clearing to do, I have to say, but there was a lot of energy there that was, for me personally, was not very welcoming to me. Like somebody was not happy that I was there. And I don't tend to, I get it that it's all us and we got to clear our stuff, but literally there was some energy there that was super, super heavy. And I also felt that I was clearing a lot of timelines from Egypt, which I've been to Egypt 4 times. I was even clearing even more with regards to Thoth's energy. So, yeah. But
You're
it's a
you're
it's a magical
dispatched,
place.
pal.
It's a
Yes.
magical place. It's a magical place. Sorry, you were
Yes.
saying yes to what I just said,
Uh,
affirming.
yes. Yes. Underscoring. Yes, yes, yes. I can tell you that Thoth is a no bullshit person.
Yes.
And when he pushes me aside to assert himself, he's not happy with the way that humanity kind of left things.
Hmm.
When he departed, over 16,000 years, he took Egypt from Chem and barbarians to this magnificent civilization. And then he handed us the keys. Said, I hope you learned the lessons of Atlantis. And apparently, we really did not. The only thing we have going for us now, those of us that are awake, is we understand it's Earth's consciousness that's going to determine things, not whether we decide we're going to get there, even if we had a choice.
Hmm.
And he's here to support Gaia.
Right.
Humanity will benefit by the measures that are going to be taken, but that's not his focus. You had your shot, is pretty
Yeah.
much how he feels about it. And he loves us all dearly, but he's got no time for that anymore. But as
Right.
you know, the clock is ticking. And
Yes.
that day when this trigger is going to be pulled is sooner than we all think. I'm not the kind of guy that would speak like this, Rob. And I don't think that you would be either, really, to stand up in a room and start to declare these things, but I know them. I just know them. And you know these things too. And all we're trying to do is reach out to the people that have been triggered a little bit because they're looking for touchstones. They're looking for someone else who's had an experience that's extraordinary who can help me go through it. It's too late to try and save everybody else. I really
Hmm.
don't have the time to try and explain it to people all over again. That's not my target audience. So
Right. Of
we
course.
are not looking for the masses. We're not looking to attract millions. No, no, there's a finite number of us that have been called. And now I see people that, man, when I see them, you're a druid. Did you know that? Do you resonate with elemental powers? Because you got it. And then you see these other people that are spawning, light and star language. And when they hear it, all of a sudden something's woken up in them. Because I used to talk like that when I was a kid, and then I tucked it away because no one else talked like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
All of a sudden, this is loud. And it's not
Yeah.
only allowed, we encourage you to refine it because there's a point at which, dear human, that it's your job clearly to help us understand that vibration. We're
Right.
not all going to understand it. And there are some translators. I've been fortunate enough, when I take on wisdom of the stuff that I get it. But I'm
Right.
not meant to be the translator for everybody. No, I
Right.
am to open the door to what I've learned so that now it's your turn to learn it because you have a pod of people that you're going to spawn that same thing with. And you see how it's just going to geometrically expand. Yeah, yeah. People are getting triggered and they don't know why. I've
Right.
asked almost everyone that's come in my path, and I'm in a unique spot to even take this survey because I'm having a lot of people reach out. I really want to know when people got triggered. When can you put your finger on when this really happened? And I find two answers predominantly.
Hmm.
Those that were triggered around 2012, and we know the reason why that would have
Right.
happened. And then the rest of them, it was all within the last 2 or 3 years. I really want to get to the bottom of what that phenomenon was that triggered all those people within the 2 to 3 year window, because I fall in there. And I wanted to understand what is the effect that all of us are going through,
Right.
because there's a
But I
lot of
think
commonalities.
But I think that's your soul. I mean, to me, my soul, like, I mean, honestly, to tell you, I used to meditate. I used to do all these things. I saw a ship when I was like 19. Like, I always was like, oh, there's way more stuff here than what we understand. So I had that knowing, but not until I would say my defining moment, honestly, well, maybe not, but yeah. Well, I started doing shamanic journeying and I started visiting other realms and other worlds and having these experiences that I was like, what in the world is happening to me? So, but I will say, I stood in front of a statue of Sekhmet in the Metropolitan Museum in New York City. I was just taking my daughter for oh, like, she's an artist and she was about to go to college. And I was like, oh, let's just go up to New York for the day on the bus, actually, because we lived in Maryland. I stand in front of this freaking statue of Sekhmet, and she like exploded my heart. And I was already doing shamanic journey and channeling a bit then, but when she stepped in, it was all over. So then the next time I went to Egypt, which was in March of 2018, was this my second trip to Egypt. And from there, it just all the ball got rolling. But I've been speaking light language for about 4 years now, and it has evolved, it's changed, and I speak many different languages. And I would say predominantly the way that I use the light language predominantly is to break up density in the body, and so that people can bring in their other aspects or to integrate soul integration, if you want to call it that. So, I mean, I've been teaching and doing webinars and retreats and all that, but it's been a very small group of people.
Yes.
So it hasn't, because I'm always traveling. Every time I like get myself together to start teaching more, it's like, nope, you got to go here. So,
You listen.
yeah, I do.
I'm like you. I rarely take people out intentionally with me. I would rather go to Shasta on my own and have 9 or 10 days when, yes, I have some commitments, and yes, there are people that I want to see, and connections we've made, and like you want to nourish that part of you with others. But the rest of the
Mhm.
time, I know when I go off trail, here's my greatest opportunity to connect with something way greater than myself. And I was never disappointed. The first time I went was not with the objective of revisiting Telos. I didn't even
Right.
know it existed. I mean, until 2 days before that, and I saw it on the cover of a book. I guess it rang true. I had some idea about Lemuria, but not any knowledge that would serve me. I was hoping to run into an ascended master out in the middle of nowhere. Look, I know this has happened here before. Here I am, just me and you, reach out. I never expected to do what I did. And so, in the same way, where you started to have these remarkable things that are beyond our comprehension, they started to happen to me too. And we have two choices. We can either shut up and never say anything about it, but there's something inside of us that says that's not it either.
That's not even an opportunity. It's choice. For me, it wasn't a
No,
choice.
it's not, and it might me either. And I've had a unique perspective. When I finally did find a community I could start to talk about these things out loud with, um, the focus seemed to be on extraterrestrial things and things in the sky that you couldn't understand, but you were sure were there, and that was the focus on beings from somewhere else. So what I'm trying to figure out, well, where's the box that I fit in? Because
Mm-hmm.
my interest isn't in extraterrestrials that I think are out there. I'm settled. I know the lights
Mm-hmm.
in the sky. I've seen them way past that. What
Right.
came to me is, holy shit, these are beings that have
Right.
been here around us that we just haven't been in a vibration to appreciate yet. But the
Right.
time is coming right now where Earth's vibration is shifting. All of a sudden, the acceleration for us to learn things that we didn't understand, boy, broaden your minds quickly, because we're going to download some information that you might not be ready for, but we got to get it in you now. Got to get
Right.
it in you now. And
Right.
that's why you just keep seeing this pickup speed. I see
Right.
myself as I'm another connector that I hear about your pod. And holy
Right.
cow, yeah, there's lots of similarities. And then I hear about another pod. However people are coming together, it really doesn't matter. The commonality is that we understand. You described straddling dimensions beautifully when we didn't understand what that concept even was. Now
Right.
I like to think of it as doing that, because you and I go to higher dimensions all the time and then are forced to return to this crappy density and report our findings. So there are those that are going to hear it and resonate with it. And there's more and more of that going on now, because when they hear people like you and I, that, just regular Joes, when we start to talk about things and the way that we do, in such a way that that kind of profound stuff would not come out of that human being. And when it comes out in like machine gun fashion, yeah, that's coming from a place way beyond this human conception. And I should pay attention to it. Not that I'm the voice of wisdom, but I've tapped into something. Part of it is stuff that's been inside of us all along. We just
Sure.
had to have something kind of crack our DNA open and expose us to the things we already knew.
Right.
I'm not learning anything new, and neither are you.
Right.
It's all
Sure.
recall.
Sure.
Experiences we've had, all those incarnations, we finally get a command of that information again, and
Right.
all the powers that come along with it. We know we get to exercise bilocation and our empathic skills and connecting those. Oh, yeah, those are inherent. I want to levitate and I want to push energy because we
Right.
can. I'm
Sure.
just trying to get to the tools that allow us to do that. And then people will believe us. When we start to push energy in front of them and they go, oh my God, you, the day is coming.
Yeah, yeah. And I think nowadays, like, I mean, as soon as I heard you speak the other day, because I didn't even know that this had happened with Thoth. So you invited me to like maybe your Facebook group. And as soon as I saw you and you said it, I got oh, yeah, like I feel him. Like it
People have
was
been
like,
telling me
whoa.
that for 2 years, Robin. It had been planted in my head. First, there was an obsession to understand the Emerald Tablets. It took me five
Hmm.
times to go through it, but I'm a Capricorn. I'm determined to learn things that I don't understand so I can find out what truth there is in it. 5 times. During the
Yeah,
last one was when it was suggested that, Thoth is returning. Totally reasonable to me. Things I've read indicate that that's true. And when Kumu suggested, because in my head, okay, he's coming back. I've got an obsession. I'm not connecting the dots, because this idea that something like that wants to embody within me, this is just too big a thought for me to embrace. It's
right,
going to sound like fantasy. And in my mind, then, even if I could embrace this idea, what do I do with it after that? I don't
right.
know. Does it change me? Do I have some kind of power? I didn't know until this past summer, when then it just started to hammer, hammer, hammer. I was getting unsolicited responses from Yaya
Hmm.
before, and we weren't necessarily friends. And it wasn't that I reached out to her and said, yeah, what do you got for me now? We didn't do that. But when she
Hmm.
had messages for me, she reached out. A
Hmm.
few of them were messages from Thoth, and she would leave these light language messages for me, and in between the interpretations. And the first few were like scolding me.
Yeah, I know
Why
those.
won't you believe who you are? And I'm going, I don't know what to do with that. And then there was finally one last activation where I felt this sensation and I got it. And then I started to answer questions from people in a place that I even read them back and I went, where the hell did I come up with
Yeah.
that? he he's got things to help us, he's got things to say, and I ethereally I just see him going, just get out of the way and I will do, what I need to do. He's made space for, like you expressed, there are other aspects, because in the last channeling I got that scolding too. He is not the only aspect that you'll be channeling.
Right.
And while I thought that, I'm envisioning this process taking place, and I can feel him, like, think of like looking in the back of a two-seater ragtop, right? Like
Uh-huh.
a Thunderbird. And
Uh-huh.
I see, Toth getting in the driver's seat, but like making space for somebody in the passenger seat. Don't know who it is. And that's when Cindy said that he's not the only aspect you're going to express. Um, and it just all came to me. No, it was almost like he made space here next to him.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, he has moved in and he's going to express himself when he feels like it, but there will be others that have things to offer, and
Sure.
you're going to be a vessel for that as well. Which, last year, I don't know what that meant. Every
Hmm.
year something has happened right around August.
Yeah.
Telos was first, Kumu was last year, and then this year was this final activation. And yeah, Toth's back and he's going to speak through you.
Whew.
How do you tell anybody that? You don't say
Yeah.
that out loud.
I'm getting like a whole like energetic something happening.
That it happens every time I start to talk to him, because he just like rises up. It's really, you got to get past the carbon based part of you and the physicality.
Oh yeah, I
And when
get it.
you feel those energetic charges, well, yeah,
Yeah.
you can't talk yourself into those levels of,
Sure, 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 sure.
metaphysical excitement, but here they come.
Sure. Wow. So I'm curious, does he have anything to share with me?
Well, you are one
I
of
already
those people that
received.
he would just wait. Yes,
I know.
bless your hearts is kind of his attitude toward you. And like I said, he doesn't suffer fools. So he's not going to spend a lot of time with people that don't get it, because our objective is to help Gaia with all this. And those of us that resonate with that, man, all the resources he has, you just tell us what it is.
Yes.
Ask a question. But in your case, there's nothing that you need to do. You understand what is going on from his perspective. And that's all he's trying to do. I've certainly had, I've shared this at first with just a handful of trusted people, because I'm not ready to let this out there. And there was one that I was disappointed in the response. The
Hmm.
response was, I don't need another God coming in to tell me what to do.
Wow.
So I get that. And I'm not here to convince you. But if that's, I understand how much further we're going to go along, because you're not ready to look beyond things that, God, if I was to hope that that situation and someone with that kind of wisdom and power would come back for us in any fashion, of
Right.
course I would sign up for that.
Right.
What if it was somebody that we knew that had earned our trust and spoke like all the rest of us? What if that were really true?
Right.
That's what I hold. I
Right.
have a lot of respect for myself, and I didn't choose this path. I would just as soon, Robin, never talk about it again outside the circle of people that get it and leave it at that. But that wasn't what I signed up for. I
Right.
asked for
Me
some of
neither.
these powers back here, and I did so saying I would use them to help others. And I
Yeah.
had to be reminded of that, because last fall, I freaking had it with humanity. If I can
Yeah.
ascend, take me. And they went, no, it's not
Not
really
yet.
the deal you made. And I get
That's
that
so
too.
funny.
Really, the juice is when you see somebody finally get it, or you've helped somebody that asks a question get to the next level. And I'm not asking you to believe the things that I tell you, at face value. I put them out there so you have to use your discernment, and then you decide whether it resonates with you. The
Right.
whole idea of vibration, and you'll feel what's true to
Sure.
you. You just know.
Of course.
You
Of
just
course.
know. It's not words that convinced you, or some a story I told you cleverly to get you to believe us. No, that's not what he does. He's going to
Right.
tell you the straight truth. You'll know it
Yeah.
or you won't. You'll resonate with it and you'll help him, or you won't. And fine, on
Right.
to the
It's
next
all
thing.
good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find his energy very much like that.
You're a blessing to step forward. Here, I can feel him coming through. He's just sending you love because there's nothing else you need. You have all the tools in your arsenal that he wants you to understand. You understand. Somebody had reached out in the group yesterday and asked if there was something they could put on their altar for him. And, he's not looking for altars and he's not looking for worship. No, he's here to help Gaia. If you're
Right.
here and understand that, then we'll connect and he'll help provide you with tools.
Right.
That's why it doesn't rub me the wrong way. I just giggle now when I remember that response that I don't need a God telling me what to do. Well, that's not
Right.
what he came here for.
Not at all. Well, it's
No.
interesting because so I felt like the call was from him for Lake Titicaca.
Um, so, Yaya, when she
Tahasiki.
went to Peru, this was one of the areas that she needed to clear. She had been given a little triangular Andara from Haruko and took it
Oh.
on this trip with her. Yes, get it? There's going to be a connection between some ley line in Shasta and Lake Titicaca. Apparently, there are 3 islands, and in between these 3 islands is where something needed to be cleared and something needed to be reconnected to something greater. And Shasta was one of those anchor points. When Cindy got there, she really didn't know what her destinations were going to be. She was just going to go to the places she was called to. And this particular area, she had somehow arranged for somebody, took her in a boat in the middle of this area, and it was triangular
Yeah.
in fashion. That crystal was left behind in Lake Titicaca
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
establish the connection, clear it, because it's a golden Taya allotment area,
Yeah. Yeah.
to Shasta. So while I was holding that space there, Cindy brought that space
Yeah.
in Peru. So I just curious, not curious. It tickles me to death when I hear people, connected to all the things that are going on, and they weren't necessarily the person that had to go, but you're in full acknowledgement of what's going on. Peru, yes. So Maya, a couple days ago, somebody has been going down a lot of rabbit holes, had
Mm-hmm.
said that she had come across this person named Maya, and
Mm-hmm.
that, man, there's a lot of similarities between I see what she's saying and you're saying, and they just felt like, I think I'm supposed to connect the two of you. Well, what they didn't know is that while I was trying to learn about Andaras
Mm-hmm.
and what they were actually made of, Ethereum,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it took me a while to go through. I found the document on an internet archive server from the mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't find this information anywhere else. And so when I downloaded this PDF that ended up being 42 pages long, it was a session that Maya had channeled. And here is all of the information that Thoth/Tahuti had
Yeah.
given her when questions about what Ethereum was, how it
Right.
got here, what it
Mm-hmm.
forms into. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
my trip to understand Andaras was a roundabout way for me not to really learn about Andaras. That was part of the process. It was to learn about
Got it.
Ethereum so you could learn about Thoth.
Yeah. Got it.
Connect the dots now. I got it. But you don't
Yeah.
know that until you get to
Yeah. Yeah.
travel that
I get
journey
it.
and look back.
I get it. I get it.
So that's how
Yeah.
I know Maya.
Okay.
We need to have a conversation because there was
Absolutely.
one other document that Tracy, this girl I was telling you about, had sent me, because when she had access to her entire archive, and
Right.
Maya's got stuff from back in the 80s.
She has like I think she has the most profound library of information that I've seen anyone else have, honestly.
Yes, from what I've
So,
read, I would totally agree with that. Anyway,
yeah.
Tracy sent me what she thought she had found, the document I had found through my description. She found something about the same size and she forwarded it to me. When I started to look through it and I sent her the one I had on Ethereum, we started to read them. These aren't the same. And what she had sent me was that I was supposed to see as
Yeah.
Thoth. Here's my reminders of what I had said about the golden Kara allotments. Here's 41 pages of what this is.
Ooh.
It's
Wow, it's hitting
all
me.
of the information in great detail, Robin, about the transition, what these spaces are, when it's going to happen. And honey, we're within like a 3-year window.
Yeah.
The timeline that he had been given to Maya back then was between 2015 and 2025. And I will tell you, which is something I haven't said out loud since it came through in a session with Yaya and I, that she was told to prepare things, and she's got 2 years to do it.
Wow. It's just so incredible, isn't it? It's just
Yes.
so incredible. And sometimes, it's like, I just go when I'm asked, but sometimes you just don't even know what the heck you're even doing. You just go and show up and it's like, wow, I couldn't even have guessed that. So I'm back in Sarasota because I keep getting called back here.
Well, there are
So
worse places.
now, well, not when the hurricane's coming right at you, but anyway.
Oh God. Were you
Not,
there for that whole, did
absolutely.
you write it out?
Yes, I did, and I did lots of work with it and tuned into it and yeah,
Wow.
built a
Bless your
grid.
heart.
Yeah, it was all good.
I lived in
But
that area for 15 years. I lived on Pine Island when Charlie came through. And I
oh
know
wow.
it damaged my house. I was
Mm-hmm.
disconnected from my house for months, over a year before I got back in.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw the size of Charlie compared to Ian,
Ian, yeah. Whoo.
it,
Yeah.
my heart goes out to people that live there that are still family to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Wow. There was something else I wanted to talk about though. Oh, I know what it was. You mentioned Lemurian light language, and that really piqued my interest. And I don't exactly remember what you said about it though.
It's right now, the Lemurians are making themselves more known to those of us that I just have an awareness of them. And they said there's a guy in India who channels higher beings and Lemurians among them. That's how there was an Australian filmmaker who heard about me and has been going around the world. It's recording these extraordinary phenomena and people who have been channeling this stuff. So this guy had heard about this young man in India that calls himself Sam the Illusionist, and he channels Lemurians. So Adam made his way and had spent time in India and had recorded several shorts with him, not the least of which was, this was in May. He said, "Yeah, I've got questions about the Lemurians, because it's told that they're Tellus, they live in the city. Tellus, it's in under Shasta. I heard about this guy named Lowell Johnson who allegedly visited this place. What can you tell me about? Are they really there? Can you tell me anything about their technology?" Well, Sam replied with what the Lemurians told him, is that yes, he didn't really ask about specifics. He can
Mm-hmm.
and he will the next time he channels, but in terms of
Mm-hmm.
technology and that, he wasn't really educated enough to speak intelligently. But he would ask. As far as what they wanted, he had channeled through, it's time for humanity to understand our vibration. Like, it's time for them all to understand it, but that's not a language that's native to us. So they're going to begin to help people that understand light language, star language. Here's why you're all being triggered, gang. You understand this vibration, so you can be those translators. We have more information that needs to come through, and it needs to be broadcast more wideband, not just pointed for Lowell. And he's going to tell you his story. No, this is going to be more widespread. So the ability for people that resonate with it, they're going to be the ones that this Lemurian light language, however you want to articulate it, it's being encouraged. There's going to be resources that are going to help those translators understand it. So again, they can teach somebody else who can teach somebody else. Everybody needs to be able to understand speaking in vibratory languages, because as you and I know, we don't chat to one another in English. We're either
Right.
going to speak telekinetically, and that's a whole different way. But when we do communicate, it won't be in Japanese or Italian or English. No, we're going to speak vibration. And the
Right.
Lemurians have been doing it for a while. It seems to be kind of a base language. But you also know there's lots of other influences. And I heard the differences when Yaya first invited me into these light sessions. it always seemed like there were different entities that were stepping forward because these vibrations and they
Absolutely.
were not the same.
Right. That's
Yeah.
pretty much
Once you
how.
get a sense for that and understand the nuances, then you can begin to understand them. And again, I love to interpret it, and I do. When Cindy's talking to me, I can tell you exactly what they're saying. I get the feeling, I can tell when they're making emphasis, I get the nuances, but it's not just meant for me.
But also, I many times I don't feel like it's to be translated. I mean, like I have, it depends, you know what I mean? Sometimes there's a message, and then other times it is simply a frequency that comes through to change the geometric patterns or to activate your the DNA or whatever that looks like, you know, whatever is coming through.
Now you
The
see
sec
why Thoth loves you, because you get
Yeah.
it. Yes, those vibrations that we get. There was something I had done recently, and I said that in it. I get all of the vibrations. I get everything Cindy's telling me, and I understand it. But you ask me to put that in human terms, I don't have the capacity to do that. So
Right.
yes, we understand that. I think that there's going to be efforts made so that that can be translated in a different way. But vibration, we got to get everybody to understand that's how it's
Right.
communicated.
Well, I'm really curious. So I've encountered many, many beings that live inside of different spaces inside the earth, not just Telos. So
Yes,
I'm curious if they would consider themselves Lemurian as well.
yes, I would, in my opinion, every soul was Lemurian. Every one of us had to pass through that civilization along, your extraterrestrial journey up until
Yeah, yeah,
here.
yeah.
You were in Atlantis, you were in
Right.
Egypt, you were
Sure.
in Elysium before we even knew what that was. So,
Right.
yes, I suspect that is. Inner Earth has been intact this whole time. It's
Right.
seventh dimensional, just waiting for us to catch up. Are you bringing through some messages?
Yeah. Is it okay if
Huh?
I speak?
Of course.
Oh, okay. Akutili inuma ukahi shakona kaliki matala kunesa tukli ina. Makadi itan tuila okuti shakuni iti. Kita matule balaha tiki. Matuku ishana haliki antaliki ina ita atikiri misote. Shamtuile atita tikina tatu shakani. Sampu ilaiki ina kalik untu enakilakinitia. Kipatandu ishishinakil atikil atuku yishinitia. Ki taliki masoto yishishinakle. Kima tu o uku o daleki no tu umasati kile kima tu ishla hala adekino ono oteleki in iti itikile mitia ki taleki soto au oshiku ina kala kuyena.
you know, it's I read the emotion in all that you're doing. And there are indicators when they put their finger up, they're making a point and they're stressing it home. It's just dear to me to listen to it. And I guess the one thing I can offer people when they begin to hear this is that don't worry about so much about understanding it. You are going to tuck it away. Some
Mhm.
of that information is coming to us in code form. And
Sure.
like you said, that was meant to tuck into like our heart space or in our throat or somewhere we don't really understand it. But believe me, there's something coming from higher dimensions that's going to help and assist us.
Well, it's very interesting because what I was feeling as I was speaking that time was there's some other civilizations that don't consider themselves Lemurian per se, that maybe are even before. Alikino tola bakota baliso mahalikuto masakle ki talebe esolekint utalekita kila antulebe taliki soto matiki likina ta sotukulimiti ki taliki talikito na yeshikiti tantu ti tantukle mesotola matia ki talimeso mahalikito kinda itantule na atokia kim sa o shomte ama oitele kinu so ki shana hasutele Ki talo o mahoyena. Oh. So see,
They're
I feel
making it
like
clear there are others, and I
yes,
honor that. And you're
apelakitune
absolutely right.
shimitia.
When I make references
Hamakutune
to when
sit.
I say that I think everyone's been a Lemurian, those are human journeys.
Yeah,
We
I absolutely
definitely
agree with you.
have other aspects that are here.
Yes. I agree with you. And what I just want to say, what I was just feeling from that last piece was like we have just begun to like pull the cover off of civil the history of this planet. And that's
Yes,
what just came through from my perspective. What I was feeling is that, oh, like there's lots more that we haven't even tapped into yet. And that's
yes.
exactly like that's who was like,
I see it that way. There was just, where were we supposed to learn the things that the people that influenced us, they didn't know it. And
right,
bless their hearts, no one before that knew that. We
right,
were supposed to wake up to this information. As
yeah,
weird as it may seem to us in 3D form and what our brains can and can't accept, there's more, and we know we're connected to it. And that's
yeah,
why they keep nurturing us. Here, we're going to show you a little bit more. This process that's changing on the inside of us, whatever manipulated DNA was there, and we know that it was, we might as well resign ourselves to that. There are methods that are coming that has the ability to actually remove the manipulated DNA, and you're
absolutely.
about to be backfilled with original design, original human design, unfettered. And so it'll have the capacity to hold greater light and higher
Yes,
frequencies,
yes.
because when Kumu had sent me a voicemail about a week after our endeavor, and what she was doing was she was articulating what this light was coming at us, and how it was going to impact us. When
Hmm.
she mentioned the phrase full spectrum light, it got my attention. And it wasn't until I came back to
Maya.
Maya's document the other day, and she was talking about how we're being conditioned, prepared for that process so that we
Yes,
can hold that additional light.
yes, yes.
Apparently, and I'll remember what the phrase is because it's going to be important for me to communicate this. We've been living our existence on this half spectrum light.
Yes, absolutely.
No, the full spectrum light
Absolutely.
is coming our way now. These are
Yes,
attempts to help you understand what it is and tell you what to do with it when it gets here.
right. So are you
Holy
saying
crap.
like, are you feeling like that's what's coming through the solar flares right now? Or yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So we're
Yes.
just being
That's been that
upgraded like
elevated
tenfold.
photon energy that's been
It's
coming
just like
forever.
it's like crazy. Yeah. But I mean,
Yes.
it definitely accelerated in this last bit of, window of time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I'm gonna tell you. So, yeah, so I'm curious. So, did both have anything to say about Lake Titicaca in terms of, so if Cindy went and did that piece of it, I keep seeing some kind of like,
There's
um,
grid alignment taking place. That's what you're sensing.
okay, and I
That's just
keep,
part of it.
okay, I keep seeing like this opening, like actually I got a message this morning. I'll just remember it. It's some kind of how like it just felt like some kind of something was opening. I don't know how else to say it.
Portal.
So yeah, it was more than that, but I don't know like any words to use. Almost like
Mm-hmm.
something was moving there and there's an opening. And
Yes.
yeah, like yeah, wow.
Like I see those places like Lake Titicaca had been closed off to all of this. And I interpret Cindy's trip there as that was one of those mechanisms that activated it and opened it up for whatever it needed to connect to. That's when I say these grids are being realigned. In my understanding, the Earth had 12 crystal pyramids that set the grid from get go.
Mm-hmm.
They are all now working themselves back into alignment. So the Earth acts as that we were a star. There's a star
Right,
inside of us. We
right,
hold the sun disk from the seventh master sun. We came from the seventh galaxy, and we hold the sun disk of illumination. All
right.
of the wisdom of the cosmos is really in our
Oh, my whole
heart.
body
And
just got like,
yeah, we are trying to figure out how we get that back. So if you think of those 12 crystal pyramids as like our human condition with the chakras, they're all trying to get back in alignment so that
right.
she functions on all eight
As
cylinders like
one.
she did right. This is what's happening. It's exciting.
Yeah, I would like to acknowledge though, this past March, I literally got guided to go to Massachusetts. Crazy story again, and I go because um Jorge Luis Delgado was going to be there, and he is a Peruvian shaman, and they call him the solar shaman. And so, like, I just want to acknowledge because I feel like sometimes, you know, like they've been very much aware of what he's from Lake Titicaca and he's been holding a specific energy there. And so I just want to acknowledge the indigenous people that are very much aware of what they hold, what that place is, and what it means. Like that's just
I'm
important
glad
to
you
me to say
honored
that.
that because really, those are the people that become our touchstones. And until we know that they're available out there, they've been holding this metaphysical space forever. However,
Yes.
we severed our connection long ago, here is evidence of what it's like when you haven't. And I want to get back in touch with the things that they're in touch with because, man, they see way beyond this. They see the blueprint for what is
Yes.
coming, and they'll be wonderful resources, right?
Yes. And when I met him, you know what he said to me? I know you from Lemuria. So we had this
Yeah.
amazing like connection. So it's just so beautiful.
I
So
took
beautiful.
that so for granted until, every time I either say the word telos or Lemuria, it just spawns something in somebody else. And a lot of them don't get it. Man, why does that word mean something to me in the same way that it did for me? That it was months later when part of the people that were around the Skull Squad, when all that happened with Ruben, there was
Yeah.
one guy, Matthew, whose family was indigenous and they'd been on the mountain for generations. Sasquatch contact, common things to them. They
Exactly.
get it. They don't talk about it, but they live a sacred life that connects them to that type of thing. It was months after even the Skull Squad endeavor, when I was talking with Matthew, he goes, "Well, you know why it was you?" And I said, "No, can you shed some light on it? Because you're one of them. You're Lemurian. I know some people here that live in Mount Shasta that decided to stand the service. You look just like them." I hadn't a clue. But now here's just one more key that kind of unlocked something I needed to remember. And man, it resonated. Yeah, it was true. And
Yeah.
every time I run into somebody else, that just plays in my head. Oh yeah, I said Lemuria triggered them too. Great. Here's more tribe that's showing up.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, really beautiful. Wow. Well,
I knew you because you're Lemurian.
yeah.
Yes.
It's so beautiful. Well, this is so interesting. Hmm, very interesting.
Well, we've recorded it. And I will go back because you brought things forward for me, didn't you? Whatever you had
Oh,
communicated, yes, there was messages in there that I was supposed to get. So I will I'll upload this to YouTube in a little bit and I'll let you know where it is. I'll put it out there right now as unlisted. So you'll know where
okay.
it is and I know where it is. And if you decide at some point that you want to make it available for everybody else, you tell me that because
Okay.
that's in your hands. When we have these exchanges, some of them for people become very personal and sacred. And maybe it
Right.
was just meant for the two of us. But the fact that we had it and now we can go back and listen to it, because I promise you, when you go and listen to this again, oh, listen to what I said.
Yeah.
It all comes home.
Yeah. I mean, something really profound just happened that I didn't really talk about, but um
Share it
and
while we're recording.
one day let's have this conversation, but there's an entire elephant in the room, I feel, that people of color on this planet and our awakening process and what that has looked like and where like what actually happened, why was the earth um reality in such a way that that they were so subjugated. Like, I think there is a huge story there that we haven't really uncovered. So as we were talking and as I brought that through, what I started feeling was that those civilizations that were just speaking through me, that are me, is something that is has not been uncovered yet, has not the story has not been told. It is not the Anunnaki story that we all hear, and
Right.
it is not even Lemurian. I felt like it's something completely different that hasn't come
Beyond.
to the surface. Yeah, and I think that one of my roles, I'm not even gonna say think, but I feel like Thoth is has we've already discussed this as
Hmm.
a Sashat, which Maya informed me is a title. So I'm not saying like I am Shashat. I'm saying as a
Right.
Sashat that it is my part of my mission to write some of this down that hasn't been recorded before in, you know, human writing, whatever you want to say.
Hmm.
So, so yeah,
No, you get to pull that aspect through. It was
yes,
hard. Yeah, I had to embrace the idea of what aspects were, and now that I understand them, those that scenario you're talking about is that's we're assuming an aspect that needs to communicate with us. We're the vessel, and here it
right,
comes.
yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Last thing I want to say is when you're talking about the crystal pyramids, when I was with Mitchell Hedges, one of the places that he took me or that we went or however that works was to Haiti, and there was a crystal pyramid there,
Yeah,
and I've never heard anybody talk about that. And I
yeah.
haven't even like really unpacked it so much. Like that's been what, 2 years ago probably. So that's like a whole nother piece. But when you just reminded me of, oh, those pyramids, like yes.
There was a
And
woman named Judith Cusel. Are you
oh
familiar with
yeah,
her?
yeah, I read her book too, her
Yeah.
Elysium
Did you
book.
read Why I Was Born in
Born in
Africa?
Africa. Hmm.
Yeah. See the grid that she illustrated in there?
Hmm.
There is where the 12 crystal pyramids and the grid location, because she had mapped that out on a couple pages and went, oh my God, look at these zones. She's found those zones. She found Tahiti. She found um, uh, whatever triangle, the Bermuda Triangle. She
Yeah.
found those through these grids, but
Hmm.
she helped us understand that, wait, when all this was beginning, the land masses for Earth was not what we see now. We have
Exactly.
to kind of look past that. I know when people try to illustrate it, they'll put a landmass in the Atlantic and say, this is where Atlantis was, or here's in Lemuria. Um, the Earth wasn't like that then.
Right.
They were in those locations. Uh, so here's where it gets to be our opportunity to kind of enlighten people. If we're going to talk about Atlantis, kind of need a common ground to speak from first.
Right.
So let me help you in this way first. Atlantis was not a city. Atlantis wasn't even an island, because really when she blossomed, there were 12 colonies and they were
Right.
spread all over. They
Exactly.
left their influence. Yes, dark influences stepped in and we fell,
Yes.
but that didn't mean that the original pure ideas that Thoth had left behind made it to indigenous tribes. And the Mayas is perfect.
Yeah.
There's your great example. The
Yeah.
Atlanteans were gone, but what they left behind went there to that depository. These
Right.
people already had been exposed to wisdom and technologies that Thoth had given them too.
Yes.
They just
Yes.
had not been affected by the things that made Atlantis fall the way that it did. So, oh, there was
Exactly.
always hope for humanity in the future. Seeds were planted. When I saw the crystal skull, honey, I had no knowledge of them. And when I saw them, my human mindset was that, crystal skulls just weren't appealing. Well,
Yeah.
the day that Bill pulled it out, and he's sitting over there in the room, I catch this out of the corner of my eye, and something just familiar is there.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I
now
cried like
we're
a baby.
walking over. Yes, he had it facing him, and you know how he's guiding you to just feel its energy first, and
Hmm.
let
Hmm.
your arms expand out as far as the energy goes, and they don't go any further, Bill.
Uh-huh.
Then he turns it toward you. And the first day, there's a dozen people in the room, right? We were here to talk about an episode of Ruben's program,
Right.
not this. So how
Right.
did I get here? I didn't want it. You know what it's like to look in those eyes. You're
I
just
do.
going down some dimensional route. And I resisted it because, like, we're on a schedule here. I can't just drift off here because I don't know when I'll be back. And that's not fair to the people around me.
Right.
So the first two times I resisted. It wasn't until the last time I got an opportunity to just let it go and let it take you where it was going to. And yeah, I had my hands around that in Atlantis, is what I came away with.
Well, it's just so unreal. And I'll just say this last thing. Before I went, I actually went because I remember Z. Z Earth Star, she was doing a ceremony in Sedona. And she said, if anybody's going to be in Sedona this weekend, come and you can participate in the ceremony with the skull. And literally, I got like taken down to the floor on my knees in my closet where my ancestors surrounded me and said, you need to be there and take your seat at the table. That is the exact message I heard. And I'm like, what? And when I tell you that at that time it was still COVID-y stuff and there was no rental cars, I had to take a shuttle from what do you call it, from Phoenix. Then there was no rental car. Then I had to wait for a shuttle to get to I forgot her name.
Boy,
I can't remember her name. Anyway, to her house. Like it was like when I say like you're talking about those initiations that you go through to get somewhere.
yeah.
And I literally got there right in time for my private session. Like I actually was like 5 minutes late. I sat down and it's like I just start bawling. Like I was like, this is my friend. Like I know you. Like
I
where have
saw
you
your picture
been?
from
Like
that instance and you just beamed behind it.
it was
Yeah.
crazy. Like yeah, so you just can't, these things like you just can't even, there's
There
just,
was
what do you
something
even
you
say?
mentioned a moment ago before this, and I had a thought, and I need to share it with you because there's no synchronicities. I
Hmm.
have a delightful friend that I met while I was working in Baton Rouge in casinos.
Hmm.
She was part of the hotel association. She was a GM for another property, and Brandis and I got to be really good friends. I can tell over the last few years that something's triggered and she's on her journey too. So as I've been watching her escapades through Facebook, I can tell somehow she ended up alone in Mexico trying to figure things out. Oh, she's on her journey. She got back recently. She moved back to Baton Rouge after living in Atlanta and doing some time with a godchild need to get through school. That's done.
Hmm.
So now Brandis is continuing her journey. Yesterday, we got into a conversation, and there were some higher level things that we needed to talk about. She had visions of her people and something that was happening in an area of Alabama that she kept getting drawn back to. So we had documented the story yesterday. Well, what I got out of it, and I said, I want to remove labels. So we're going to have a conversation where it has nothing to do with our genders, doesn't have anything to do with our colors. We're going to remove all those labels and get down to who we are at our essence. And let me give you my observations of what you
Hmm.
had explained, because when she went back to this area that she kept being drawn back to, and she didn't understand why. She knew she had history back there as a child, and her family was there. And she said, I was aware of this moment when we were all there and then we weren't. We were just gone. And I'm trying to ask my ancestors, what happened to us? Where did we go? What happened? And that's when, do you have any awareness of Atlantis? I mean, does that resonate with you? Because really, in that area of the country, I can see where that would certainly fall within those areas. And
Hmm.
if it was true, here would be an answer for why you were there one moment and why you weren't the next. Consider that. So she went away with, I'd never thought about that. I'd never even thought about Atlantis. Well, I'm pretty sure you've been there. And here's one thing to just, let it sit with you and see what you come up with. So we'll regroup. But, when you mentioned something about people in your color, I'm trying to get us past those labels.
Sure, sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
But they're certainly applicable here. And we need to factor them in when we tell these stories to people who fall within those labels. Yeah, we're labelless, guys. In the next realm, nobody cares about that.
Okay, I completely get that. Absolutely. And I get that. How do I want to say though? Mm, okay, maybe it's nothing else to say about it.
I, of course, am looking from a really pure, higher dimensional perspective, knowing that we still live in this muck here and we have to deal with all those labels.
Yeah, because okay, with the I think that I was gonna say about it is I think that like especially on this ascension journey, this awakening community, all those things that you want to call it, it is like non-existent because as for me, like thank God my guides and my connection was very strong because if I looked outside and said, "Oh, Everybody is tall, white, blonde with blue eyes, right? Like where do I fit in? They picture the archangels like that, the Nordics, the this, the this, the this, and it's like, wait a minute, so does that mean like I don't ascend? I don't like so I feel like for a person of color that is awakening, where do you look? Like so I feel like there's some
You can
I
send them
know.
in our direction because we're going to explain that whole we're connected to everybody thing. It transcends all
Of
of that.
course it of
Part of me is
course it
in
does.
part in you, and part of you
I
is in
no, so
me.
I get that. I understand that, but that is an understanding that comes through your healing too. Because
Yes,
I think there's so much ancestral DNA, there's so much like all that stuff has to be transmuted before you could get to the place where you can say, "Oh, of course I know you. Like we had lifetimes together and we're from here and we did this in the galaxy." And like yeah, you can go there, but that the healing from the earthly crap is like I think I'm just saying like I'm just recognizing, yes, I was able to navigate it, no problem. But I think a lot of people I don't know, some part of me feels like that is part of something that I'm here to do, which is why I just laughed because that's what I just heard.
that's exactly what you're here to do. You just articulated it beautifully in ways that I understand, but you had a different part of it. Never mind that, you're sitting in that chair. Yes, I am a
Right.
Black female. And so I can't speak from this perspective that I understand it here. And I understand what lessons I learned through that experience. And I understood all the contrasts that came with it. But I'm also trying to tell you, we are this. When I
Yes,
step into
absolutely.
those higher dimensions and I straddle up there and I
Absolutely.
see it from that perspective, this is what I'm trying to communicate to the rest of you that look and sound like me.
Yep.
Man, we
I'm
are
light.
one beyond that.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I'm light. When
Beautifully
I
put.
see my higher self, I am a light being. I'm not, I have no
Yeah,
skin, first off. I don't have any gender, race, or any of that. It's like really, I'm
right.
a light being. So yeah, no, I get it. It's just like maybe it's just like a kind of a passion of mine because I
Well,
know it's
you're
part of
rehearsing,
something that,
and I love
yeah,
to hear
I
you
know.
do that because you're supposed to repeat this for others. I am totally in sync with it. And man, I love to hear you say it. I love to hear everyone say it because they finally get it.
Yeah, 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 it's beautiful.
Yeah,
So,
not everybody does though.
no.
Again, I am so grateful when I get to spend time like this. We could do this for hours because
Yeah, absolutely.
we're coming in sync and we're just elaborating it. And it's not like our light isn't brightening while we're doing this too. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So thank you. Uh-oh.
Hmm.
That's my mom. And I'm on camera.
It's okay. This is just meant for us until you
Yeah.
decide differently.
Yeah.
But
It's all
I
good.
would encourage you to, when you're ready to let others hear this,
Yeah, I
I
think
would
I
say
don't
you're
think there was
supposed to
anything that was I don't think there was anything that was
listen to it first. I always
okay, I
like to
will.
do that.
Okay.
And then when you decide, because sovereign being, I'm
Yeah.
respecting that zone. And some people, it's too private for them.
Right.
You got to have your choice. But if it
Right.
were to me, everyone needs to hear when somebody gets it because you're going to help somebody else. Oh, wait a minute. Robin thinks that way too? Yes, she does. Here, you should
Yeah.
listen to her.
Yeah, I know. It's what it's like kind of like a next piece for me. Well, I was thinking that Thoth was gonna say something like profound to me, like that I didn't know or
One day he
encouraging
will,
or
but you should
something.
take comfort in that you understand his mindset.
I
Really, you're part
know.
of the troops that are rallying that already
I
get it. So yeah,
I
you hit
know
the
him
ground
very
running.
well. Yeah, we've had
Thank
lots of times
you.
together.
Yeah. There's nothing else that I can tell you you don't already see from his perspective. So what you can go away with this is you got more resources to rally now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
We're not the only ones. Thank God.
Yeah. Oh, seriously. Okay, cool. All right. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate your time and I love, the message
Yours
and
too. Well, this
hopefully,
isn't the last one.
yeah. And if, I can offer people, help with activating DNA, deactivating, getting rid of density in their bodies, whatever that
Yeah.
looks like.
Oh, yeah, you're
So
part of that. This is why
yeah,
we were
so
having this conversation so that I could begin to explain, what I saw coming. You're already prepared. Now
Mhm.
you finally know that whatever stopwatch was about to start, we know that it's running now.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. Wow.
Time to step
Interesting.
up, share what you know.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Have an awesome day, and hopefully I'll get to see you in person one day.
Soon. We will.
Yeah.
It's inevitable that our paths are going to physically cross soon, and we'll get there. In the
Yeah. Okay.
meantime, we'll do this for a while, and I'll post this shortly, and then I will email you the link. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right,
Awesome. Thank you
Robin.
so much.
Thanks for
Okay.
your
Take
day,
care.
honey.
Okay.
Bye
All right.
bye.
Peace. Bye bye.